A chance to escape Murdoch'sembrace. In 2009, I attended the wedding of News International Chief Executive Rebecca Brooke. The ceremony took place by a lake at a country estate. I stood next to TV presenter Piers Morgan, while Paul Dack, Daily Mail editor, was a few yards away. The promoter was closer to the action. The camera hung up the slope. Gordon Brown, then Prime Minister, arrived late with all eyes turning to me as I walked down to the lake. At the reception, I had a brief conversation with Mr. Cameron. I said, I hoped he would not win the upcoming election, but that if we did, and if we wanted to act for good debate and standard, I would support him. For some time, journalists in me had known that the relationship between politics and the media was not serving the public. It was not serving the public, but it was my first-hand experience this developing cultural abuse and negativity that convinced me Britain's press and 24-hour news were making it more difficult for elected leader to govern. It's got worse, hasn't it? He said. I replied that he would be a much stronger prime minister were he to take office, not feeling he owed anything to the big middle groups. I hoped he would not I said I hoped he would not win the upcoming election, but that if we did and if we wanted to act political debate and standard, I would support him. For the journalist, I would support him. Got worse, support him. I was on serving the but when the first hand experience that company brings to make it more difficult to lose. It's got worse, hasn't it? He said. I replied that he would be a much stronger prime minister were he to take office, not feeling he owed anything to the big middle groups. Big middle groups. At that time, Mr. Murdoch joined us and we changed the subject. Perhaps we should not have done so. That we did, however, illustrated something of the dishonesty at the heart of what are essential political and commercial relationships. It is not easy to do what Ed Miliband Labour leader did last week. Make himself an enemy of some of the media's most powerful forces. He was right that Labour got too close to News International, but he was also right that, given the media bias against it, we knew why we tried to level the playing field. In my own defense, and as my diary showed, I argued for some years with Tony Blair that we need to act on the culture of our media. At one point, it ticked me off, asking that I not my views so obviously in front of Mr. Murdoch, his son James, and last intendant chief executive of News International. Ultimately, Mr. Blair thought the press had become a problem, but that given our other priority, people would not understand our taking them on. He also thought it would look like revenge for the fact they had turned against us. And there were political considerations too. Trying to govern and win election is hard enough without the press being against you. I accept that for all of us, at times media support was something we courted at the expense of position or principle on media issues. But that trap has now been sprung. The latest revelation have forced the police, News International, and the government to act. The police will now be more vigorous. News International will continue with their kamikaze crisis management, which one day will be studied as a textbook case of how not to do it. But the most important developments are the Prime Minister during inquiries into press practices and a new system of regulation. These mean we now have once in a generation opportunity for a new settlement between politics, the media, and the public. Nobody can argue that we have the press we deserve. Pressure by technological change, a dominant strain of Britain's media, has gone into a spiral of decline, in which this scandal is only the most dramatic development. Mr. Cameron did not look comfortable announcing the reviews. He has personal relationship at stake, and given he hired Andy Curson as his communications director, his judgment is true. Already, the backlash from part of the press has begun as seek to maintain that anything but two slips of regulation is an assault on a free press. But Mr. Cameron must stand back from all of that. Free press. Oh, not free press. But Mr. Cameron must stand back from all of that and ask himself what is the right thing to do. He did some of it last Friday. The judicial inquiry should be far reaching. The news of the war is far from alone the use of dubious and illegal practices as widely ignored reports from the Information Commissioner have shown. Partisan British media reminds me of the trade union before Mrs. Thatcher. They feel untouchable. As I say above, Labour could and should have done more to deal with the fair abyss. But just as the MP's expenses scandal emerged from MP's expenses scandal emerged from the failure of Mrs. Thatcher's government to tackle MP salaries, so the system by which showered honors on editors and owners, a practice to which you put an end with a rule that no serving editor could be honored, means to have something to answer for. Whatever the past, it is Mr. Cameron who must lead the country to a better place. Mr. Miliband has shown himself capable of playing a good and principled part, and so should the public. Ultimately, political debate will only improve if the public want it to. If they channel the anger at recent event into an assessment of what kind of paper they read, whether they really want to live on a diet, whether they really want to live on a diet of celebrity, trivia, negativity, and abuse, to coin a phrase, we are all in this together.